part of the reason I did learning the lyre harp is because I really wanted to emphasize the learning part of it, because that's what I found was really missing.
Hi, Sharon. Very nice to have you here with us on Hub Connection. How are you doing today?
I'm well, and thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You are actually the one guest that is physically the closest to me in terms of distance. You are from Surrey, Canada, and I'm your next door neighbor in Delta,
I
and
know.
it's kind of
You're only like
amazing.
half an hour away from me.
We're very physically close to each other, but we actually meet each other on an online group that is designed for adult harp learners. And then later on, you have started a group on learning the lyre harp, which
Yeah.
what got me interested in talking to you today. But before we go into your website, can you tell us about your musical journey and how did you end up picking up the harp and eventually the lyre harp?
Ooh, that's a long story, but I'll make it short. I have no musical background at all. I grew up in the Philippines on a farmland. So um, taking music lessons is really just for the rich people, and it's not really something that an average person would do because it's very expensive, and most of us don't have any instruments or can afford one. So it's one of those things that I've always been interested in learning something, because I've always loved music. I loved listening. I loved watching people play. So, but it's, at that time, never really something reachable for me. When we moved to Canada, I was 14. One of the first outings we had was to go to Whistler. Some family members flew in from California. We drove all the way up to Whistler, and right when we parked the car, we could hear this beautiful sounding music coming from somewhere. And it's like, what is that? And so we just followed the music, and we got to the center of the plaza. You've been to Whistler before, so right in the center, there's this beautiful lady with her big, beautiful pedal harp, and she's playing. And that's my first introduction to a harp, and I was like mouth open. I'm going, this is so beautiful, and that experience never left me. I was always fascinated by it, but I never really thought much about playing the harp. It's just one of those things. Oh, I wish I could do that, but never thought much about it because I'm still at that mindset that's beyond me. I can't do that. So fast forward 20 years later, I'm married now. I have kids. My kids are much older. My husband surprised me with a harp, a full-sickle harp. So it's like, okay, I know I was dreaming about this for a long time, but I never actually thought I could have one. But now it's here. And it took me a whole year to actually play it. I just dusted it. That's all. That's all I did. And then finally, about after a year, I go, okay, I better do something with this. So I found a teacher, Kaori Otaki, who teaches, and she's a beautiful teacher. And I went into training with her for 2 years, but my progress was very slow, and because I have no musical background. So I kind of left it for a bit and then came back again much later on, and I found that I'm really enjoying it. So I'm just playing music that I like, music that speaks to me, and all the lessons that I had with Corey for that 2 years have really served me well because I almost want to say it's like riding a bike. I never forgot any of them, so I was pretty much able to pick up and read the music and maybe reinvent some things for myself so it's more accessible to me. So that's my journey with the harp. And then the lyre, of course, came up a little bit later. I was introduced to the lyre on one of our harp circle. I've never thought about playing the lyre, but at that time, I believe it was Renee, and she was talking about giving somebody a lyre, a pentatonic lyre, because somebody that's really close to her is having some physical issues. And at this point in time, I'm looking after my uncle who's been very unwell. So I'm spending a lot of time at their house. And I thought, what a great idea for me to be able, he loves music as well. And he's one of those people that helped me with learning to read music and playing the piano. So I wanted to do something for him. So I got the lyre. I got the cheaper lyre because the pentatonic lyre that was shown was like way out of my price range. But it was enough to get me interested and get me started. It held its tune, and I found that it's so easy to take with me and play. And even my uncle can just like, even though he was weak, he could just like glide through it and found a lot of pleasure doing it. So that's how I started with the lyre.
What a story. And I really particularly resonate with sort of how easy it is to enter the lyre well. Not that I have one yet, but from what I've seen, it seems to be an instrument that is relatively portable, relatively affordable as well, and
Mhm.
doesn't, it's not as intimidating as a big harp, for example, even a 34 string floor harp compared to a lyre. The lyre seems a lot more approachable, and
Mhm.
it makes so much sense in retrospect when I think about like a first instrument. What a great instrument it could be for a lot of people who are interested in music.
Yeah, and both the lyres and the harp, I think the one thing that I really find the same with both of them is that they're both very forgiving instruments. Once you have them tuned to the scale that you want to play them in, you can just glide your hands back and forth, and it's soothing and it gives you so much pleasure and it's relaxing and it's beautiful. So even if you don't have any musical background and you just wanted something to relax you, the lyre or the harp does that. I
Mhm.
love it.
Yeah. And what are some of the similarities and also differences between a harp and a lyre?
Well, the lyres are a bit different to the harps in that it's much more portable. It's much more smaller. There's also a whole range of them, so there's so much varieties out there on the lyre, which is part of the reason why when I was trying to figure out how do you play this thing, looking for books, even like instructional books, I couldn't find anything because of the variety that's out there. There's medieval lyres, there's English lyres, there's one that's only four strings, one that you play with a bow, one that you just strictly pluck with a plectrum, or there's just so much. So you can go from anywhere from four strings to 34 strings. So and I think there's even one that has more than that. So there's so much variety out there. Some that you just
Mm.
strictly play using chords, and some that you can play melodies with. So but with the harps, it's pretty standard. You can get from 15 strings all the way up to the pedal harp, which has a lot more strings. But the way that you would play them is pretty consistent.
Mhm.
Depending on your lyres, you might have to change. Sorry, your harp, you might have to change levers or use pedals to change the tone. But on the lyres, you don't have pedals. Some do have levers, but most don't. So you're pretty much stuck with the diatonic scale. Or if you want to do a chromatic, then you'll have the two strings. So just the way you play them, I find with the harp is, you know, it's it's pretty easy and it's pretty structured. Whereas when you play the lyre, it's not structured at all. There is no set
Mhm.
standard, there is no set structure. So that's the biggest way. But also, just because there's nothing set to it, it opens you a lot to being more expressive and trying new things, because there is no wrong way of playing it.
There's
You can
there's no
pluck it, you can
limits.
strum it, you could do whatever you want with it, because there is no set standard.
That's amazing. And I think this is where your Facebook group has been very interesting for me because I got interested in the lyre because I saw your video playing it and I thought it was such a great instrument to have. Instead of getting a laptop, I thought, oh, maybe I'll get into the lyre. But like you said, there's so many different ones and I don't even know where to start. And tell us about this learning the lyre group that you have started. Why did you establish it, and how do you think it's going to help people like myself who wants to learn the lyre?
um I basically started it, I think, because I saw a need. When I started with my lyre, wanting to find some support group out there, because I'm so used to the harp community. The harp community is fantastic. You know, you would know because you're part of it. Like if I needed something, there's so many people for me to go to and ask, and we have like such a great community that helps each other out. There is really nothing like that on the lyre side. There's a couple of sites, and it's basically where people go in and put in a recording of them playing or talks about the history of the lyre. But at that time, those people were kind of like clashing. They're trying to the bigger part of the group is trying to preserve the historical part of the lyre, and there's a new bunch of people coming up that just want to play the modern lyre. So they were just clashing, and there's a lot of friction happening. And because I play the modern lyre, I kind of like, okay, I better step away because I'm not a confrontational person. I just want to play my instruments happily and just do that. So I didn't want to be part of that confrontation. But then I also saw other people that have similar instruments to me struggling. So I said, okay, well, it works so well for the the harp community to have an engaging, supportive community. Maybe we should have one for the lyre too. And I had a couple of people that said, yes, please set one up and we'll join you. And so when I set it up, I was thinking maybe I'll have 2 or 3 individuals in it, because those are the ones that said, yes, please set one up, and because we need one. But I guess there's a lot more interested in it, because after a few weeks, it just keeps growing, and it's growing really fast. So, and part of the reason I did learning the lyre harp is because I really wanted to emphasize the learning part of it, because that's what I found was really missing in the lyre community. There's a lot of people posting how to play, but no one's showing you really how to play it. There's lots in Japanese or German, but nothing in English. So it's, even all the books, all the tutorial books are in other languages, not in English. So it's, I've started learning how to read Japanese or translating things into Japanese so I could share it with people. So that's really why I started it, just to help out the community and give them a space where they can learn and, feel comfortable and be supported.
What an amazing thing that you're offering the community. And I am part of the group, and I certainly see a lot of people, not just yourself, but also the participant in the page, are very willing to share the resource, which is fantastic, because otherwise I wouldn't know where to find them. Even though they're out there, they're very scattered.
Yeah, they're very scattered. So, which is part of the reason too why I created the website to go along with the Facebook. I basically first I wanted to go, okay, maybe we need a guide for the group. So I started typing out a guide, and I was working on it. But the more I did it, the 5-page guide, maybe max 10-page guide that I was thinking would happen is now 50 pages. And I'm going like, I can't present this to people now because it's too big. How am I going to, present this in a much better way where people can access it more freely? So then the website came along.
Yeah. and you also have a members area where you share sheet music. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's still free to join. It's just I put that as a members restricted area only because some of the music that I'm putting there are not my own. So even though they're not copyrighted, they're music that you can find freely on the internet, they are still not my own. So out of respect for those people, I wanted to make sure that you see where that is, and you can see where I got it from. And if you want to go directly to that website and give them the thumbs up, then that will happen. I didn't want to own that information and say, this is me, I did it. I just wanted to protect the copyright if there is one. And like I said, most of the songs that I'm putting in there are not copyrighted.
So let's circle back to your lyre. Can you show us a lyre and maybe do a little demonstration on how you play it? And I know there are many different methods, and maybe you can tell me about the way you play the lyre and what other ways there are out there.
Yeah, so this is my lyre that I'm using right now. I do have another one. this is a 19 string lyre. It's diatonic. So there's different techniques to playing the lyre. So I started out with plucking the same way you would with harps, because I'm familiar with that one. So I'm just gonna do a chord, and then you can roll it just the same way you would with a harp. So that's how I first started playing it, because I'm more familiar with that. And then later down the road, I got introduced to the gliding method, where you basically take your lyre and you press down and you slide off. And I found that made a much better sound. So I like that way better. You could also have a pick and use it, the same thing. And you can also like strum it. I did a recording today on how to use your lyre using the chord method. So if you don't know how to read music, but you know how to do the chords, you can play it like a guitar. So you would just, block the strings that you don't need and just strum it. So like I said, there's so many different ways of playing the lyre, and experiment. There's no standard.
Yeah. And I certainly get that idea in your website. When I was browsing. I'm like, there's so much information out there.
You can combine the techniques, and sometimes I find combining it works really well. So I might start off with gliding, and then I realize I want to do a rolled chord, and it's easier for me to roll it using the plucking method. I might do that. So I cheat a little bit. But that's not really cheating. It's just doing what works well for you, right?
Yeah,
and just
sure.
enjoying it. I think that's the main thing. Just enjoy it.
It is. And I always think about when I take my harp lesson, if I'm not enjoying playing the instrument, there's really no reason for me to continue. So I always put enjoyment as one of the first things I want to achieve in playing an instrument. So for those who want to start playing a lyre harp, and I know the markets are going to be different, but let's maybe talk about North American like myself. If we want to get started, where might be some good places for us to look for a lyre, and what kind of lyre would you recommend us to have as a first lyre?
As a first lyre, I think I would recommend something that, because I'm a harpist, so I'm kind of a bit biased. The more strings, the better. I started out with a 16-string lyre, but I didn't like the configuration of those lyres because they're not the same configuration as a harp, which is why I got the 19-string lyre, where your highest notes is closer to you, so you could go like this, and it sounds the same. I'm biased.
Rightfully so, because you're a harp player as well.
Yeah, it's just easier for me because I'm used to that orientation, so it's easier for me to flow when I'm playing better. But if you've never played harp before, then it won't matter to you, right? So, and I even got used to playing it, playing my other lyre in that configuration too, because that's all I had, and it wasn't hard to learn. But I would definitely get something that has 16 or more strings, especially if you want to play melody, because that opens you up to a lot more strings to use. If you just want to play using chords, then the lower strings, the 7 to 10, it's fine. And there's lots of them available. I got mine from Amazon because it's, I like the delivery. It was almost next day.
And instant gratification.
Yeah, and also too, if you live in North America, where I am, there is really nowhere to buy the lyres. I went to 3 different music stores looking for lyres, and there's none. So I wish that there was a store where you could go and try them out the way we do with a harp, like try them before you buy and see how it sounds. There is none. Unless I missed them, because I only live in Surrey. So I went to Vancouver, and I went to Long and McQuaid in Surrey, and Tom Lee, and those are the popular ones. They don't have it.
Yeah, I was surprised because I remember when I was looking for harp, Tom Lee and whatnot, they will carry Dusty String, for example.
Yeah.
But none of them carry a lyre harp. And then I go to Armason. Not that I should buy a harp in Armason, I think. But when I go search harp, all I got was lyres. for the
Yeah,
most part.
for the
Yeah, which
most
was
part.
very interesting.
And that's and again, because I don't know much of the difference, I'm really taking a gamble on the instrument that I'm getting, right?
Mhm.
But I did read all of the reviews, and also um, I got the Sega lyre because the Japanese teacher that I'm following on YouTube, she plays the same lyre. So I thought, well, if it's good enough for her, it's good enough for me.
That's awesome. And let's talk about your YouTube channel because you have put some resources in there as well. Can you tell us what kind of information we can find in your Learning the Lyre Harp channel?
In there you would find a bunch of the tutorials that I'm making right now. I first thought that I would make all of those tutorials private in the membership only area because, you know, I'm kind of a little bit shy. But because we got into like a bit of a hiccup with the site that I'm doing, I couldn't make it available for everyone. So the YouTube kind of became the answer. Well, if I put it on YouTube, it becomes available to everyone. So that's why I started using my YouTube channel for it. But mainly the tutorials, and if there's a song that's uploaded on the members area, hopefully you will find a recording of me, and hopefully someone else starting to do it too. That's my goal, is to get people playing and posting their videos.
And in terms of the Facebook group and other participants who are contributing content, if we're interested in sharing information in there, what kind of information should we be sharing, or what kind of information would be helpful for everyone?
Anything to do with learning. Share your experience, share your knowledge. If you see someone struggling and you might have gone through something similar. We just had one of the ladies there talking about her difficulties with strumming and plucking, and she just found something that helped her, and she shared that with us. And she's also visually impaired, and so she's sharing the things that are helping her. Those things are really useful because it helps people to know that they're not alone, and they're not in this on their own. We're all here together, and I may not share that same experience, but I may know someone that does, and I can bring that story along to help them, and or somebody else do it. Just encouragement. We wanted the group to be a really, really supportive group. So anything to support the community, that's what we're all about.
Let's make it as awesome as the harp community.
Yeah. That's my goal.
That's fantastic. Now, speaking of Go, I know your website and your group is still young right now, but
Yeah.
where would you like it to be in 2-3 years from now? If you were to grow it, you're planting the seeds right now. Where would you like it to be 2-3 years from now?
um I haven't really gone down that path because I'm so busy helping everyone right now. But really, if we can just maintain what we're doing, the basic of what we have and why we started the Lyre, and stay true to that, is to be here for everyone and to support everyone. That's what I want to see a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in probably just a bigger scale. But don't lose sight of what we're here for. Like, we're here as a community, bonded together, having fun together, learning together, and just, sharing with each other. That's why we created it for, so continuing with that, however many years it will go, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to sum it up. Because when I look at how you started the group and why you started the group and how it has grown, I don't think you have swayed far from that original purpose at all. So I think it's good to remind everyone that this is what motivated you to begin the project, and
Yeah.
let's stay with it as far
Yeah.
as we can.
I mean, I have no big aspirations that I'll be like, the Lyre guru or whatever. I have none of that at all. All I want to do is like help everyone, and get everybody to help each other. The more of us being there for each other, the better.
I agree. Well, thank you very much for sharing your journey with us with the harp and the lyre harp. And I'm going to include the links to your resources in the video description for our audience to check out. Is there any other platform that you're in that perhaps we haven't mentioned yet?
My daughter said I should have an Instagram account, but so
Get her on it.
I opened one as well, but to be honest, don't even put that in because I barely touch it.
We'll
I'm
stick with the group. I think the Facebook group is what I call the meat and potato because that's where all the actions are.
Yeah, that's where everything happens. Anything that I post on YouTube goes there. Anything if I updated the website, I will also let everyone know in the Facebook group that something new has been added, just to let them know. So everything happens in the Facebook group. And everything is
Awesome.
called the same, learning the lyre harp to make it easy.
Yes, I like it. You don't have to remember different URLs and names. So I'll
Yeah.
post that in the description. And thank you so much again for chatting with me. And
Thank you.
we'll stay in
Thank you
touch.
for having me. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.